Hey, how's it going, everybody? Portable Trevor here, and today I have a very special guest. Please welcome 80's icon, Stan Bush. What's up, Stan?
Hi, how's it going?
Pretty good. What have you been doing today, man?
Well, not too much, just hanging around, doing some little work here and there, as little as possible. No,
Trying to relax around the holidays?
yeah, somewhat. It's We were on vacation last week. I shouldn't admit that, but with the COVID, but we did sneak away for a little bit. But
Oh, cool. What'd you do?
we my son is in Mexico and his wife, and so we went down to see them and my new granddaughter. So that was very
Oh,
nice.
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. She'll be one tomorrow. So
Oh, it's awesome.
yeah.
Cool. So how have you been you're a musician, so how have you been juggling, you have a new album which we'll definitely get into, doing that and being a family man as well. How have you been balancing those?
Well, it's been a process. I'm fortunate in the fact that I haven't really gone on the road for extended periods of time. Like
Hmm.
a lot of bands and so forth, you hear about them touring 6 months, a year, or even longer, and that's a tough life. It's good I haven't had to do that. It also kind of tears your voice apart, when you're touring so much. So I
Hmm.
did stuff like mini tours in Europe and so forth, but by and large, I've been able to mostly play, selected kind of tours like in Europe or Japan. I went to once, but been to Europe many times and some shows here in the U.S. too. So
Awesome. And that's interesting. I've always been fascinated how singers, especially like you, take care of their voices because you're like belting in almost all of your songs and you just got this crazy high pitched voice. How do you take care of something like that? Because I hear you and I'm like, oh man, I feel like I wouldn't be able to talk for days if I even attempted that.
yeah, it really is. That's why I can't do like multiple shows. If I had to do
Mhm.
5, 6 shows a week, I couldn't do it. I don't know how these guys. Well, they don't hit the notes after a while. I think it's but it's usual stuff. Get enough rest and eat, take care of yourself, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've managed to keep my voice pretty good shape. Doing enough local gigs to keep in shape vocally, but not having to totally trash it all the time.
Right. And so Stan has a new album out. And Stan, can you tell us a little bit about this album? I'm going to pull up the track list. Dare to Dream came out this year. And it's just a super fun ride through the 80's almost, and Stan's brain and how it processes the this amazing like iconic sound. So Stan, tell me a little bit about this album.
Well, let's see. The first couple of songs we did last year, it was actually the summer of 2019 when the first song, the 80's, I wrote that, and then
Mhm.
we did a music video for it, and it was kind of like a trip back in time. I got rented a VW bus, and my son actually played a young me in the video, and it was pretty cool how that all came out. And
Oh, I saw the video. That was your son.
yeah, yeah, the
That's
good looking one.
cool.
No, it was cool. We did the music video, and anyway, the couple of the other songs, wrote later in the year, and then like I say, mostly this year, with the COVID, a lot of us have been sort of unable to do a lot of things we would normally do. So it in a way, it kind of became a blessing because we were able to focus just on the album. The uh, the new album was most of it was written this year. Myself and my producer Holger Fath, he's brilliant, a great guitar player, and uh, we an arranger. We put together the tracks and so forth. And it came out really good. The reviews are just tremendous, and people really seem to like the album.
Yeah, it's super fun. Let's talk about the 80's since you brought that up.
Sure.
I felt like that song was the most personal one to you. Is that true?
One of the
Just
ones,
like
yeah,
listening to it.
yeah. I mean, for me, I mean, technically, it would be the '70s that has that nostalgia for me.
Mhm.
But I'm an '80s guy. The most of the stuff that I do is geared that way in terms of songwriting and production. Yeah, I love the big '80s thing, and one of my favorite bands. I mean, I like the old Foreigner stuff, and was influenced by that, I guess, and a lot of great stuff back then. But I think the the cool thing about it is, I think whatever era you grew up in, the songs that you remember from that time take you back in time, and you experience not only, hearing the music, but just a feeling that you had from growing up and whatnot in your childhood, and memories and things that all kind of come out, and it's really a cool feeling.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating about that song in particular. Like you could have never heard an 80s song in your life and you can hear that song and I can kind of just the way you wrote it, the way you're singing, it's kind of nostalgic in a way, even though without the 80s song attached to it or the sound of the 80s attached to it.
Right, right. I hear you. Yeah, there was another great song that had a similar sort of feel, but one of the all time greats was the Bryan Adams tune, the Summer of '69. That had a
Mhm.
similar sort of nostalgia to it.
Yeah, I actually got that vibe. I was like, this kind of sounds like Brian Adams, but kind of your own take on it. That's cool.
A little bit, yeah. I'm just talking about mainly the lyrics and so forth. It doesn't sound much like it in terms of the music, but it's
Okay.
melody. But yeah, I just like that, the way the song came out. It just seems really cool, and the key change, going into the chorus is definitely gives it a lift, and I like
Hmm.
surprises like that, modulations, where you're in one key and then boom, you're in another key, and it's like, wow, where did that come from? It's like I don't like. Well, I mean, I like things that are sort of unpredictable. It's kind of
Hmm.
I do it a lot. The key change thing.
So how do you keep that people on their toes and kind of throw in surprises whenever some people would say like the 80s music is formulaic almost and you can kind of it's got a, like a formula to it. How do you keep those surprises in?
Well, that's the thing that's kind of difficult, is like it's one of those things where talking about a good song, you can't always get there, but you know it when you see it, kind of thing. It's like you just keep trying and keep experimenting, and then something new will come out, like just filling around on the guitar, and you're like, wow, I like this, and then you try to find another part that goes with it that works, and then maybe down the line you might have a melody and a chorus or a title will emerge, and then you sort of work backwards and fill in the lyrics. That's kind of the way I do it. Some people start with the lyrics. It's kind of a chicken or the egg thing, I guess.
Cool. What's your songwriting process? What kind of puts you in the mood or inspires you?
Well, just mainly my acoustic guitar. It's kind of I write everything on acoustic. I you know of course have a couple of electrics, and I do play electric, but it's for songwriting. It's just, to me, it just works better. You hear the sound right there. It doesn't come through an amp or something. And it seems to resonate literally and figuratively.
Mhm. So you had a really big hit in the 80s with the Transformers movie, The Touch. And so you're really from like that 80s era, but I feel like, now whenever we hear that sound, the synths, the guitar, we're like, oh, that's from the 80s. But back then, it wasn't really called anything. So, and you were kind of a part of that movement, I feel like, to like popularize that sound. So what was that era like whenever, you're adding in these synths, these guitars and the 80s wells?
Well, it seemed like a lot of that stuff, and it was also not just the songs, but they were in movies, and the way they were used, the songs in movies were, the songs were a big part of the movie. So the story, like you'd have like, well, like I was thinking of like Top Gun or Back to the Future or something where the song is an integral part of the film itself, and I just love that. The 80s songs, the anthem, the stereotypical Eye of the Tiger kind of thing. That was one of the best of all. It creates this whole feeling, that it's like, first of all, you remember the song because it's, the melody sticks in your head. You walk out of the theater singing the song. you know, it's like, I don't know. It's just, they were very effective. And I kind of never lost that side of, thinking that way about songs, that they need to be, well, first of all, decent songs, but also memorable. That kind
Mhm.
of the key. That the melody that you remember, and something that's interesting, something that hasn't necessarily been done to death.
Yeah, I remember I saw Back to the Future earlier in the summer at a drive-through, and that song plays, "The Power of Love" plays pretty early in the movie, and
Mhm.
as we were driving away, I was like humming that in my head. I was like, that stuck with me the whole time.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
So what are some other things that what are some other like movies or just songs that kind of inspired you to write 80s type songs?
Well, it's just sort of, I don't know, that it was a different time as far as writing. Like they had bands that were, more pop. Obviously, Journey was always also a great rock band and sort of pop stuff, but their stuff kind of crossed over. I love the old Foreigner stuff, and the in terms of like there were a lot of great 80s sort of hair bands, that had really good songs. There'd be the big power ballad, and I don't know, just the songwriting then was sort of focused on that memorable hook, that big anthem that you sing along with, and like I Love Rock and Roll or something, that was like the definitive kind of big 80s power thing,
Mhm.
bands like Kiss, and it was good stuff. I mean, I grew up listening to of course the Beatles, and Zeppelin and all that stuff early on, and even Motown. I mean, I love that stuff. The soul music from the late '60s, early '70s. Just great stuff, great production, and of course you have early Elton John, which was wonderful. It was all about the songs, Just that's the way it should be.
So how do you create these, memorable hooks in this music? Because I mean, thousands and thousands of people have tried to write, those big hits that everyone walks out of the theater humming the words or just cranking up the volume on the radio. Like, how do you create something that everyone just like wants to scream at the top of their heads in the car?
I don't know. That's a big mystery. I guess if it was easy, everybody would do it. It's I don't know. It's like the other thing too. Like I think I said before, was that trying to be original is hard, and
Hmm.
it. Well, I think one of my biggest things through the years that's maybe hurt me a bit was just trying to be too complicated, too complex. Like
Hmm.
simplicity is often the best thing. Something you don't try to get too carried away with technical or too many chords and that kind of thing. But
So how do you fight that, the struggle between being complex and being simple?
it's just one of those things. You can't. It's not some definitive thing. You just a song is kind of elusive. It either works or it doesn't, and you
Hmm.
can't always quantify why. It's like it's weird. I mean, you think about like an artist like Don Henley. To me, he's like my favorite artist, just about one of my favorite. Certainly, he's written amazing songs all through his career, and great singer. And it like take a song like "Heart of the Matter," one of my favorites of his. Like it's a song for, first of all, he's talking. It's like from your, just like the Elton John. It's a little bit funny, just something you could be saying in a conversation. It's sort of conversational lyric. A lot of times is just great, a way to go, and you don't always have to have some predictable, hook song, hook line that everybody screams out. But it's I guess what I'm trying to say is people don't always know why, but everybody can sort of agree that like "Heart of the Matter" is a great song. It's just one of those things. It's you can't put your finger on it, but it's there.
That's awesome. What are some of your favorite hooks you wrote on your new album?
Well, let's see, the title song "Dare to Dream," and of course the '80s. I love that hook.
Hmm.
Let's see. It's funny because you'll have like part of an idea, and then a few days later you'll get the other part of it, and it kind of comes in spurts. And but yeah, you'll just be playing along, and you'll think, "Oh, this works," and then you'll think of another section, another part to go to at some different point. Sometimes lyrics come quickly, other times they take weeks and weeks. It's sort of one of those things. It's sort of hit or miss too, and you
Hmm.
can't always like just think of it all right away. It's a process. I guess it's like a puzzle. You're trying to figure out what works, and you know.
How long does a typical song take you to write? I feel like that may not be the best question because I feel like it varies between everything. But do you write songs fairly quickly, or how long does it take you to get it from pen
Well,
to paper
usually,
to?
one thing I learned a long time ago is I used to, or in the early days, I used to give up too quickly on lyrics. I would just say, oh, it's sort of good enough, and you just sort of write these, maybe the lyrics are like, okay, but, you just say, oh, that's good enough, but you got to like push it and keep trying to hone the lyrics. That's the thing you don't want to give up on, because they really are important, at the end of the day. It's funny because, I've been like, if I play a concert in Europe, and it's very amazing, gratifying, to humbling too, really, when you look out and you see people mouthing the lyrics to your songs. They know the lyrics sometimes better than I do. you know?
I've always said one of the best feelings in the world has to be playing a concert and people are singing along to your song. I've always
Yeah,
thought that would be the coolest feeling in the world.
it really is. It's amazing. It's cool. Well, it's like with any kind of art, I guess. It's like it's nice to hear that you touch somebody in some way. And like I've gotten fan letters over the years about like the song "The Touch." How maybe that song changed their life in some way. Maybe gave them confidence when they needed it, and maybe they were having a tough time, in life and so forth. And I don't know, it's a great feeling, very humbling to hear stuff like that.
Mhm. So, tell me some stories about you being on the road throughout the years and what's been like some of the best experiences you've had.
Well, just that kind of stuff. I mean, just you play a ballad and the lighters come out. Now it's cell phones, but
Right.
you, yeah, or when you get an encore. Yeah, exactly. And it's but it's very cool. It's kind of like when if I perform like at a Transformers convention, for instance. Like instead of being like maybe a certain percentage of the people know who I am, but like at a Transformers convention, nearly everybody does, and it's kind of a neat feeling. Oh, there's Stan, it's like, I don't know,
Yeah,
but
that's awesome.
yeah, I got a fan letter from a little kid. I thought that was cute. He said you're my biggest fan.
That's
Well,
funny.
yeah, that's funny.
Um, so I have to ask, so with that being, your biggest hit and people have like known you as that throughout the years, have you become a little Harrison Ford sort of like, these people just want to talk about the touch or, like how has that made you feel?
No, no, not at all. Like I say, it's very humbling, and I appreciate that people, even if it's
Mhm.
mainly for that song, that they, it's nice to be known for something, and at least that song is a really good song, and you know what I mean. It's kind of cool, but that just comes with the territory. I could never get away with playing a concert without doing the touch.
That is true. I mean, like it would be totally different if the song was terrible, but it's a good song and it fits super well with the song and or the film and the decade.
Yeah, yeah, it's held up over time.
So tell me, like, how did that come to be? You writing the touch for the movie was it already a song and then they picked it up, or did you write it specifically for the movie?
Well, yeah, my friend, writing partner, Lenny Macaluso, we wrote it a long time ago. Actually, we had written it with the film Cobra in mind, Stallone picture. And anyway, it didn't get in Cobra, but the record label at the time, they came and said, "Oh, we got the touch in this animated movie about robots," and we're like, "What?" But little did we know that the Transformers was going to eventually become, this big phenomenon. So it was pretty cool.
That is awesome. So, did you think it would be, as or as regarded and memorable to so many people whenever you wrote it?
No, I mean that stuff all came, a long time later. It was sort of like, although the touch did sort of make some noise in Europe. I went over to Germany the first time for a promotional tour. I appeared on a couple of TV shows, but as soon as I landed at the time, Berlin was still, the wall was still up, but so I had to fly into, um, let's see, Frankfurt and then to Berlin. But then when I got off the plane, there were like 50 kids there with my album, wanting autographs. And I was like, wow, I had never experienced anything like that before. But and the next day, I was in some big TV show. This big television personality had me on his show, and I was lip syncing the touch, and it was a cool feeling. It was like, wow, what's this? Like they had these teen magazines, kind of like you have here. That I had like photo spreads in a few of them and so forth. So I guess the record label in Europe had done all of this on their own.
Mhm.
They got behind it and made stuff happen. So
What's your take on lip syncing? I've because a lot of people are like, no lip syncing ever. That's not true. That's not being true to yourself, and that's fake. Like, what's your
yeah.
take on that?
Well, I can see like for some of these TV shows and so forth that they want to play it safe, yeah, obviously, and I don't need to do it because I can sing in tune most of the time, and but I can see why at least at the time it kind of made sense to do. But like when you do a music video, you're lip syncing. That's you're not
Mm-hmm.
really singing in the video. But yeah, when you play live, you should try and sing. Sometimes, like, okay, when the touch was last year before last was in Bumblebee, the Paramount contacted me, and went down to Comic-Con and performed in front of 7,000 people singing the touch live, and it came out great. It was like they wanted, it was the track, but it was me singing live. So.
What are those conventions like?
Well, this one was, Comic-Con is huge, just like a city, first of all.
Mhm.
But the Bumblebee panel was the stars from the movie, and of course the director. And I thought I was going to be on the panel, answering questions and all that. You think about, okay, a panel. I've done panels before for these
Mhm.
conventions, but in this case, they wanted me to do the song, and I was like, oh, okay. It came off great though. So.
That's awesome. What's the weirdest fan interaction you've had so far?
Oh boy. It's tough to think off the cuff about that. Just it to me, it still baffles me how, just because I sang a song 35 years ago that I should be any kind of special thing. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, yeah, I can sing good, and I've written some good songs over the years, but it's like, I don't think I don't feel like I deserve any kind of special adoration or anything.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've seen one of my favorite creators on YouTube. He gets recognized quite a bit. He's pretty big, and he's talked about like interacting with fans, and he's just like, I don't like it. Do people ever just run up to you and start singing the touch? Because he would have people like quoting his lines, and he'd be like, just ask me how my day is.
It's crazy. It's unnatural, is what it is.
Mm,
To have. I don't. But you know what the thing is that gets me, especially at these Transformers conventions and so forth. These kids are really sweet and wonderful, and
mm,
they're just nice, and they're so glad to meet me, and I'm just happy to meet them, and just it makes me really feel good that I can bring something good to them, and I don't know. I really like it. They get a photo with me or whatever. And I always happy to sign whatever, and that kind of stuff. But it is very gratifying. But
mhm.
you know,
What are some of your other favorite like musical accomplishments that you've done over the years?
well, probably the one of the biggest was winning the Emmy Award for Song of the Year in 1996. It was the show was in 96, and then it was for The Guiding Light, the soap opera. The
Mhm.
song was Till I Was Loved by You, and got nominated and then won. The actual award was in 97, but that was incredibly, what an experience. God went to myself and my co-writer, we were at the awards, Emmy Awards, and they announced that we had won. And so she and I walked up to the stage on, trembling legs and said a few words. And it was just really, it was one of those things that's like, a lifetime accomplishment, people can never take it away, kind of thing.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely. And I've never talked to anyone that's won an Emmy before. What is that whole experience like going to the show and everything?
well, it was just like I say, one of those things. It's like, wow, this is very cool. It
Mhm.
didn't make a huge difference in terms of, well, maybe it did, just in sort of credibility, and whatnot. But
Mhm.
it's the but over the years, you do enough things, and they start to sort of add up, and then, oh, okay, this guy's been around. Like in '96, also I had a song in the Olympics that was. The Olympic swim team had won all the gold medals in '96, and this was a song called "Capture the Dream," and I performed at the Olympic Village, but but also NBC had put together a montage of footage of all the gold medalists, holding up their medals, and my song was playing "Capture the Dream," and that was very cool.
That is cool. Um, so I've noticed like a lot of your music, it's all about, believing in yourself and like having a heart and just very like inspiring stuff. So is that mostly what you like to write about?
Thank you. It is, it's funny because the touch sort of started that for me. That I like to write about hope and about positivity. There's a lot of negativity in the world, obviously, and it's been a tough time for a lot of things. But what are you going to do? Like write a song about cop killing? I mean, I don't know. To me, it's like, and I know the touch kind of started a whole chain of those kind of songs. I think some of the ones that each album, there's two or three that have that uplifting sort of message. Go for it, believe in yourself, and I think on some level we create our own reality. We as people, we don't realize how much power we have. And I think people can do amazing stuff when you put your mind to it. That's
Yeah. Why do you think it's important to be positive?
Well, it's about believing that you can do things, and that's sort of the title song of the new album, "Dare to Dream," is exactly that. You dare to dream, and you can actually accomplish miracles. If you really do believe you can do it. It's a very common sort of thing that people have talked about for eons. About the power of positive thinking, sort of motivational thought. But there really is truth to it. That we all of us want to do something important. We want to live well and have some success in life. And I don't know. It's not like I think people can realize that dreaming is important. At least having sort of goals and reach for things, and you might surprise yourself. What you can pull off.
Yeah. Whenever you started out your music career, were you always this positive and you wanted to write about these things like this?
Well, kind of. I mean, I think I was one of the fortunate ones. I grew up, in Florida with a really close family. My parents were very supportive, and it just seemed like I don't know. I guess I had a lucky go of it, back in those days, and it gives you a sort of foundation, and you sort of, I don't know. I think self-doubt and things like that sometimes are things that maybe you don't have as much of if you had a good situation growing up, and so in that regard. But it just seemed like one of the things too, and I sort of realized this early on. I would always sing to myself when I was a kid, and you don't really know, but I thought I had a good voice. You know what I mean? You can hear in your head how you sound, and but it seemed like every band I was in ever since, like, I was 10 or 11 years old. I was always kind of the guy who sang, the singer. And, but I also play guitar, but it just seemed like it took years and years of playing gigs and so forth, clubs and everything else that, you start to get really good at what you do. And then, and I got out here to LA. I had done, the touch and some other stuff, and people started calling me for things, commercials, and I was the voice for Toyota trucks and Coors beer and all this. I had the beer voice thing, the big 80's power, vocal. So it was that worked out real well because and then soundtracks too. I had sung the first two Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, Bloodsport and Kickboxer. Had 3 songs in each of those that I sang, and those are still sort of today, like there's like a cult following for that stuff. And, people
Well,
are
that's
like,
cool.
yeah, it's cool.
So what's the difference in today's landscape and the landscape then for, getting your name out there? I mean, I haven't made it, but I feel like I kind of get it. You meet someone, you keep making connections, you DM someone on Instagram or Twitter or something like that. Like I can see all these avenues, but take all that away, it's kind of hard for me to see. So what was it like back then?
Well, it's one of those things. I think, well, confidence first of all, but like word of mouth is an important thing. Like I say, they recognize your talent and they start calling you for stuff, and it kind of works out that way, a lot too. And I don't know, it's a crazy business. Obviously, it's sort of feast or famine. As far as you know, coming up now, I really don't have that much of a clue. I know it's hard because there's so much stuff, so much content like on the internet, and they sort of used to be the greedy record companies, and now there's really not much of a profit motive on the for music, at least. You know what I mean? Because of the streaming, and before it was when they did the what do you call it, Napster, and all that came out in the 90s. And then iTunes was another way, and then now they're pushing that. They still have iTunes, but they have like Apple Music, I think it is. But
Yeah, Apple Music.
yeah, but it's like I say, it's not like with Spotify and whatnot. It's just a fraction of a penny. It's like you almost can't make a living. They've even dropped the amount you get for YouTube royalties. If you have a music video and that kind of thing. But it's, I guess, people who do music, really you do it for the art, but it is like people are inundated. There's so much stuff out there to see, and yeah. But
can you give some advice to? I have a lot of friends who are musicians. Like, what advice would you give to someone who like wants to make it? Do you need a record label to sign you? Do you need, millions of views on Spotify or listens on Spotify? What advice would you give?
That's the thing, I don't know anymore so much. I mean, I think for the last several years, it's been, trying to make a viral video. You make a music video that somehow, resonates with people, and it becomes popular sort of on its own. And, that to me seems like the best way. If you don't have sort of, or if you get something that you wrote in a movie or something like that, that's another thing. But it's hard. I mean, it was always hard, I guess. But it just seems like it's very competitive now. Like when Survivor came out, they had the Eye of the Tiger in the Rocky picture, and that totally put them on the map. Great song. And, it just seemed like after that, all the record companies were fighting to get those slots in the movies. It wasn't just a one-off here and there, but the big bands, they wanted to have, the established bands, they would try to get them. The record companies would probably pay big money to get their act featured in a film and that kind of thing.
Because it wasn't always like that to have, songs that you'd hear on the radio and movies. Like that was kind of something that was in, I think that kind of started in the 70s, like kind of like with Rocky. Like that was a really big deal to have, Eye of the Tiger in that and have that like play on the radio.
Absolutely. Yeah. People would buy the record, and fans were, like Karate Kid for, that I know Joe Esposito is a friend, we sang together years ago, but, but he sang that song in Karate Kid. And it's funny how that works. You're, people, through the years. Like I did a recording session with it was a Hertz commercial for cars, car rental.
Yeah.
And it was, anyway, I was singing with the one who Sheryl Crow, and this was before she made it. So I had heard the next year, I saw in the tabloid thing in the grocery store that she was touring with Michael Jackson, and then after that, of course, she became a big star. But it's just funny how that worked. Yeah.
What's she like?
She was nice. Yeah, great singer. She was from St. Louis. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's your opinion on the landscape of just kind of the way we consume music now? Because I was born in 94, so I kind of, have enjoyed the digital aspects of today's music. Like I have a Spotify subscription. Like I can listen to any song just about that was ever produced at the, click of a button. But I do remember being younger, and, when I would buy an album or something, like that was special because, I was a kid and didn't have a lot of money. So when I would buy an album, I would listen to those songs over and over and over. So those like, couple albums and CDs that I owned growing up, like I still remember every lyric to this day. Can you, is that kind of how it was whenever you were growing up?
Oh yeah, yeah. There was vinyl albums then. You know, the big. I like the big artwork on the old. My first two albums were vinyl back in the early '80s. Well,
Mhm.
'83 and '86. But and then after that, it was CDs. But still, you get the artwork and you have the booklet with the lyrics, and it's kind of a cool thing. I mean, a lot of people who are sort of album artists, I think you'd call them. You still want a lot of the people who like that kind of music, what they call AOR, album oriented radio. They buy that. They still buy CDs and that personally, I like that. I mean, I like to have a physical thing you can hold in your hand, you know, and you know, you know what I'm saying.
I do. So who did the artwork for your new album?
Yeah, his name is Dello Delamo. He's Italian. He did the
Mhm.
last four album covers of mine, and the guy's terrific. Great guy too. But yeah, he designed the album cover artwork. The uh, the one that for the Dare to Dream album, it was actually I thought of the concept of having the floating sort of sailing ship, you know, that's floating through the air. That seemed like it could be part of a dreamscape, and so he executed it wonderfully, and you know, anyway. But that album cover, people really like it. The
Yeah,
album is,
it's really cool.
yeah.
I dig it. So did you kind of tell him what you were thinking, or did you just kind of let him run free?
Well, in that case, I did. In all the other albums before he had done, he just came up with something off, you know, from his imagination. I sent him some songs sometimes to check out and just sort of get a vibe for it. But he's very creative. He does stuff that's sort of what do you call it, like surreal, where you'd have
Mhm.
like things that are not possible. You know, where you know, where you'd have like a, you know, whatever, like a sun or another planet that's right there, and it's or two
Mhm.
suns, you know, two moons or something. But yeah, he comes up with great stuff.
And it's a good like it's a good companion to your music, I think, because you're all about, daring to dream and, going for it and everything. So it's cool that you take these impossible looking things and you're like, hey, if you can dream it, you can do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's really at the end of the day, you know, that's to me, that's the important stuff. You know, as people, you know, we need to aspire to greatness if we can. You know, try to reach out and do something that maybe, you know, whatever it is, whether it's a song or a film in your case, or maybe somebody creates builds a better mousetrap or something. You know, but I think each of us has to have some sort of feeling that they, you know, can achieve something. I don't know. Just that's just me, you know. But I think it's great. I think, you know, really though important stuff in life is, you know, friendship and love and your family and so forth. You know, it's but you know, we all have stuff. We all have dreams. You know.
Mhm. Absolutely. So, Stan, can you give me your top five album artworks of all time?
Oh man, I don't know. Let's see. The It's really hard to think of that off the top of my head. I mean, like the Pink Floyd kind of stuff was great. They had things that were a bit surreal like that, and
That will forever be like just a good design. Like you can put that album on anything and it looks good.
yeah, yeah, or like the
T-shirt looks good. T-shirt or a
yeah,
sticker looks good.
that's right.
iPhone wallpaper looks great.
Yeah, like bands like Journey and whatnot, they would have like some kind of emblem, you know, be like wings or
Mhm.
something, or you know, and you know, you could put it on a T-shirt, it looks great, or a belt buckle, whatever, you know. Um, but those kinds of images, it's uh, it's funny because I came out to LA originally with a band, and we got signed and had come from Colorado, even though I from Florida originally, but we got together in Colorado and we got a record deal. Came to LA, and then after one album, the band broke up. But anyway, after that, I got a chance to start recording solo, and but it's funny because I was always before that I was always a band guy, but with the touch and those other songs, it's just sort of I don't know, just kind of I had success as a solo artist, and it just you know, kind of made sense to just stay with that, you know, and so that's kind of how it ended up. But the problem is obvious. There's problems with a band, and that's why bands break up. You have squabbles over writing and songwriting, money, publishing, whatever it is, and personalities mainly. Just it's hard to creatively, to have multiple individuals involved in something. It's very difficult to keep all that going.
Hmm.
I guess a lot of bands like the Eagles, you had like two main guys, Henley and Fry, and
Hmm.
that kind of thing. But
Was
with
there
a
a big? Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying with a solo act, it kind of like takes away that problem, of having,
Mhm.
people that, maybe you don't see eye to eye with, that you have to still come up with ideas, but it's a little bit of a lonely road, but at least, it's like, what happened to Stan? Oh, he broke up.
Was there a bit of a culture shock for you whenever you moved from Florida to LA? Because I'm from Tennessee and I moved to Atlanta last year, and that was only 2 hours away. But the culture here is just like way different, even though I'm like still in the South.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like I say, I grew up in Florida and spent 2.5 years in Colorado, but then came to LA, and yeah, it's a big difference. I mean, it's funny because growing up, I had sort of an accent, not as much as the rest of my family, but when you go back and you hear them talk, it's like it sounds a little bit like I managed to lose my accent mostly though over the years.
I'm kind of the same way, but when I'm with my family and my cousins, I kind
Yeah,
of start getting a little more of a draw.
just slip back in. That's right. Yeah, size five and that kind of thing.
What's the
Wow.
biggest difference between the South and California?
Well, this is something I miss too. Is back in the South, people are friendly. They'll say hi to you on the street. And
Mhm.
maybe it's partly because it's just a big city here, but I think people are more apprehensive.
Interesting. I remember I've never been to the West Coast, but I remember when I went to New York, one of the first things my friend told me, he was like, "Don't look at everyone." And I was like, "Okay." And I made sure to keep my hands in my pockets and just like mind my own business.
Yeah, yeah. That's it's just sort of a different way of being, but I do miss the sort of neighborliness they have down there. It's like you can
Mhm.
just say something to a total stranger, and I was down there fishing with my son, and this old guy comes off the fishing pier, and I just for some reason just yelled out, "Hey, you catch them all!" Stuff like that. You could say stuff like that, In this, you can't get away with that here for some reason. It's just people are way too, I don't know, too much coffee or something.
Yeah, it's kind I guess it seems like it's kind of like a what do you want from me kind of thing.
Hmm.
Like when
Yeah,
you talk to him. I gotcha.
yeah. Just people are just not as tightly wound, I guess, is what you'd
Mhm.
say.
What is the music scene like in LA? I imagine it's super competitive, but you kind of are established, so it might be a little easier for you, possibly.
Well, it's one of those things. It's like there's not really a music scene per se. I mean, it's kind of just
Mm.
everybody everywhere working independently. There's a million studios, and a lot of them are in people's own houses and things. And like I used to do a ton of vocal sessions back in the day in the 80's and all 90's. uh, People would call me and I'd go sing something, whether it was a commercial or maybe a song or backgrounds on some other album. Like I sang on Alice Cooper's records and Jefferson Starship and a bunch of other people. But they would call you and you'd show up and then do the date. And sometimes things would happen from it. Like I did the soundtrack for Sailor Moon, and that became on the album, and people still they know that I did that. They comment about it later, and oh, you did Sailor Moon, that kind of stuff. It's like, but just out of the blue. It's a funny town, really. But yeah, I made my living as a session singer for a long time.
Who's the
Doing
coolest person you've worked with?
Oh man, it's I did stuff with Rick Springfield a couple of times. I had sang on two or three of his records, and he's a good guy. It's funny. He lives in Malibu in this big, nice house and all that stuff near the beach. But he called me recently for something. But there was like an AT&T wireless commercial, and they got me in to sing to shadow him on Jesse's Girl just to beef it up. Jesse's
Mhm.
cool, that kind of thing. But real nice guy. Most of these people are very nice people. It's just
Mhm.
you meet folks coming up, and I have an acoustic band too here in LA. Although since the COVID we haven't played, but for the last 8 or 10 years we've been playing gigs around, just like cover gigs, playing Zeppelin and stuff, and Henley songs, things like that, playing acoustic. And the other guy, the other guitar player, uh, he plays violin and mandolin as well. So we're able to do these really cool songs with, and the bass player from Quiet Riot, and the drummer from America, and Joe Cocker and Tina Turner. These guys are all like top players, but it's pretty cool having a band to play out like that just for fun. Yeah.
Mhm. I was gonna ask you about the production on your album.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it must have been pretty hard to do this because of COVID and everything. So how did you pull it off?
Well, my producer Holger Fath, he and I did most everything ourselves. He brought in his drummer guy, you know, uh, Craig Yamick, and a great drummer. So other than that, Holger and I did everything. Holger's a great guitar player, and he also played all the keyboard parts and bass and so forth too. And like I say, besides vocals, which I did all the vocals, Holger played the rest of the stuff except for the drums. So yeah, we didn't have to have multiple people in the studio and all that, with COVID. But we just don't work that way. And like I say, the nice thing about him and how he works is just we work together. I mean, we can just there's no clock on the wall kind of thing. We can, if it takes a month to get the song right, then he'll do it. And so we were lucky in that way, or smart, I think, in that way, by spending the time to really make the songs right. So
Yeah,
uh,
I guess it's easier whenever it's a passion project.
yeah, yeah. Like I say, when Netflix reached out to me a couple months ago to do this song "Born to Fight" for their Netflix anime, their two most popular shows, anime shows, let's see, Baki and Kingen Ashura. They commissioned me to write a song for the anime, for the shows, to promote their shows. And I called my buddy Lenny, and we co-wrote the Born to Fight song. And it was perfect timing because the record was done except for one more song. So I got, Holger and I did a production of the song. We produced the song, took a few weeks, but it came out great, and that was the opening track for the album. So, and of course
That's awesome.
Netflix loved it, and they did a music video with footage from those shows, and me, doing this sort of fight thing. It was pretty cool. I'd never done anything like that before.
Do you watch a lot of the things that you do songs for? So like, did you watch the anime, I guess, and
Yeah, I
um,
did. I learned a bit about the shows, and but like I say, it was a lot of it was. It's funny. Another thing with the COVID, my wife's a fitness person, so she was sort of training me the last 9 months or so. She has a set of dumbbells at home, so we were able to do that stuff, and work on you know toning up and all that. So the timing again was perfect because I had a little bit more tone and all that, sort of to pull off the tough guy thing, and then the music video. It's pretty funny.
that's awesome. It's probably important to stay fit as a musician. Just kind of helps you
Yeah,
to keep going.
yeah, it is. It's really, there's a lot of musicians that just, I don't know, I'm getting to the age where I'm starting to see people like, check out. It's like, what's going on here? This is weird. Like, I knew Tom Petty since like eighth grade, and it was just such a shock, to see him like just go away. It was like, whoa, what's going on here? But yeah, I was in three different bands with the drummer from Tom Petty and Stan Lynch. It was funny. One of the things Stan said to me years ago was, this was really good advice, and he said that always work with the best people you can find, and
Mhm.
that was such good advice. So
Yeah, I can relate to that with like filmmaking because
yep.
I've met a lot of people here in Atlanta, but like I can probably count on both hands like how many people I genuinely trust to help me on set.
Oh yeah.
So whenever you're in like the studio, you're probably like, I want this guy, and this guy, and no one else.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's right. You know what people are capable of, and like I say, it's a big town here, but you know, like either I or somebody I know knows a lot of the people, so you know. But again, like I say, it always comes down to the songs, and I think I've learned a lot about writing over the years, and I think I'm getting better at it. It's
Mm.
one of those things I said before. You don't always know it when or you don't always get there, but you know it when you see it in terms of like what a good song is, and I think I'm getting there. I'm smarter than I used to be, so that helps.
I hope to be that way forever. I'm smarter than I used to be.
That's right, right.
So, everyone, we're getting close to the end of the show, and I think Stan wants to play a song before we close. So,
yeah, I'll play something.
Awesome.
See, I'll back up here so I don't last you out. But yeah, sometimes I'll get asked to play. This is my baby, my guitar that I've had forever.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I bought it in Florida in '76, so it was.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've had it ever since. It's part of me. It's like every song I've written was on this. But yeah, this is like the one from the Transformers. But you got the touch. You got the power. After all is said and done, you never walk, you never run, you're a winner. Got the moves, you know the street, break the rules, take the heat, you're nobody's fool. You're at your best when the going gets round. You've been put to the test, but it's never enough. All right, here we go. You got the touch. You got the power. When all hell's breaking loose, you'll be right in the eye of the storm. You got the heart. You got the motion. No doubt the things get you tough. You got the touch.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Thanks.
Man,
Yeah.
how often do you play that song?
Oh, not in a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to seriously get back in shape, after this COVID thing. I guess that's the thing with everybody. It's nobody's done a gig in 9 months, so it's like, oh, I hope it still works.
So yeah, I guess your voice is kind of like a muscle, and you got to work on it.
It is, yeah. It's exactly that.
So what are some methods that you take to take care of your voice?
Well, one of the things that you should do is warm up before you do a gig. If you just walk out and start singing high or screaming or something, you're going to lose your voice. But if you warm up and get things loosened up, and then I do the hot tea with honey thing. Honey seems to really help. And but again, it's mostly about warming up and getting enough rest and that kind of thing. And it's funny because when I'm doing a vocal in the studio, it's a lot of times it takes me a good hour of singing before I start to really get loosened up and I can really do my best stuff. And it's a process. It's like anything.
That's awesome. So Stan, yeah, we're getting close to about an hour now. Is there anything else you would love to, is there any secrets behind this album that you'd love for people to look out for?
Well, like I say, I think it's, I'm really proud of the album. I think it came out really good. The reviews have been terrific. And, I don't know. It's funny because for the longest time, I thought In This Life was my best album. It was in 2007. But except for the old Barrage one, which also really good. But I think this one I finally, at least matched, if not topped, the other stuff. So, but anyway. But if people want to find out what's going on, go to stanbush.com, and the albums are all available there, of course. And anyway, I appreciate you having me on. And
yeah, well, I wasn't gonna say bye yet. I was still gonna. We still got a little bit if I can ask you a couple more questions.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Unless you want to go.
Well, I'm not in a hurry. So
Okay. Um, what's some of your proudest work that you've done? Like, because you said that album was like one of your what was your favorite. So does that mean this album is now your favorite?
I think now this one is, yeah. In This Life was a very powerful album too. That came out in 2007, like I said, and the that was my first one that Holger did the production on, and it came out really good. And it has that Transformers theme on there, that Till All Are One, and that was in the Transformers War for Cybertron video game. And there were a lot of other really good songs on there, like I'll Never Fall, and but it's just song wise, it's right up there. I think, like I say, the songs that have on the new record have really come out good too. Like the 80's song, of course, was, I love that. I love that song. I think it's funny because if that song had come out in the 90's or something, it would have been a big hit, and I'm not sure nowadays if that's, I guess it is possible. I mean, some of these people are having hit records, but it very seems like the record companies, the big labels, they have their people like Katy Perry or somebody, or whatever, big artists that they spend a lot of money on promoting.
Hmm.
It's funny because you asked me before about if I had any advice for people starting out or up and coming artists, and you really, the old MO method was to get a record deal, and the record company would take care of everything. But now it's sort of every man for himself. You do your own promotion. You get one thing, at least with the recording and promotion stuff, you can do a lot of things on your own, and they have these companies that you can put your album out and on and have it be on all the streaming services and everything else. I mean, you still have to sort of promote it yourself, but at least if you do that, you're not giving the whole farm away. Like the old days, the record companies took like 90% and of the profit.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was crazy. Unless you were like Elton John or somebody, then over the years you make successive deals that were better and so forth. To get finally start making what you should make. But yeah, it's very exploitive. I mean, it was always that way in the old days. In Motown, they would take all the publishing, and a lot of these artists, they would write and record, and they would never make any money. It was just pretty awful stuff.
Man. And yeah, I hear about like, Spotify taking a bunch of money and everything, and so does Apple Music. So like, is there almost any point eventually in even trying to make money from music if you're starting out?
Well, that's what I kind of was hinting at before. I don't really, I'm not an expert at this stuff, but it just seems like if you take away the profit motive, there is going to be a decline in quality. I mean, a lot of people aren't going to want to do it because there's no, like if I spend, 25 grand of my own money recording an album, and if I'm not able to make at least most of it back, or some of it back, then you know what I mean? It's like at some point, and I have a track record. I have fans, that buy my albums when I come out with something, and that's pretty cool. But for a new artist starting out, I mean, it's a sort of a big gamble. You're spending money recording stuff that may or may not even make any money, and you sell 200 copies, your friends and all that, and it's just I don't know. It's a tough thing, but
Yeah,
it's one of those
absolutely.
things you have to almost do it for the art, I think.
Yeah, I've thought about that for like filmmaking. I was like, would I still do this if it didn't, bring me any money, or
Mhm.
or would it just be a hobby? And part of me would like to say yes, but man, it would be tough to do something for a living and you barely make any money.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if it's a hobby, then you have to sort of limit the amount of time you can devote because you still,
Mm,
like all of us, we have to make a living, right? And
right.
so you have to sort of pick and choose what you're going to do with your time. And I don't know, but I don't know. I really hope that that the people recognize and want and expect talented stuff, good talent to come out, because it's I think music's important. It gives us a lot of peace and tranquility, you know, in a crazy world. It's you know, when you put on some great track and it's like you just tune out and you know, you can just vibe it. And I don't know. I don't know. There used to be these great bands that would come out with something and like whatever it is, you know, Pink Floyd or something. You put on the headphones and you just zoom into another world. You know, I used to do that with Zeppelin stuff, like Zeppelin 4. You know, with Stairway to Heaven. That whole album was great. So, you know,
Yeah, absolutely. But Stan, thank you so much for coming on.
yep.
I would love for you to close with this. Tell me what's the best piece of advice you've ever received, and then, of course, plug everything in. Tell us where we can find all your music and whatever else you're working on.
So probably the best advice ever was for a good friend of mine, also great singer, really good guy, Mike Lanning. He did a lot of stuff, including Broadway. He told me one time years ago, he said, "Don't ever quit." So
Don't ever quit.
That would be my advice. Don't ever quit.
That is good advice because I have thought about quitting many times in my filmmaking career, but there's always been that little voice inside of my head that said, "Don't quit."
Yep.
So amazing advice. So yeah, Stan, tell us where we can find all your stuff, and we'll
stanbush.com. And I really appreciate the support and wish you the best. Have a great holiday. And yep.
Yeah, thank you, Stan. I hope you have a great holiday as well. Hope our paths cross again, and maybe you can be on the show again sometime.
Sounds good. Take care. Cool. Keep in touch.
See you, Stan. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.